morning, everyone, and welcome to the Snap Podcast. And in a week where we've seen some massive trades and questionable decisions, we've elected to reduce our podcast to a three-man act. It wasn't by choice, with 4th and Inches suffering from further congenital bowel disorder and G-Lo pretending to be busy at work trying to hire Brian Flores to manage the local Tesco branch. That leaves me, a very snotty Griff, and Johnny Thrash to take you through the highs and lows of the last week in the NFL.
The A-team, I like to think that we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I be Mr. T?
You can.
I pity your...
I pity your cold. It's another week where the quarterback position has dominated the news, and there's no other place to start than Deshaun Watson. For the first time ever, I'm actually a little bit disappointed not to be talking about Brady and Rodgers. But anyway, Watson plus a 6th round pick in 2024, which is important to remember, got traded to the Browns for 3 first-round picks, a 3rd round pick, 2 4th-round picks across the next 3 drafts. And once that was confirmed, he was given a guaranteed $230 million contract, which will last 5 years. So before we get into all of that and more, I just want to take a quick chronological look at how this all went down. So around about this time last week when we were recording, Watson was in a 4-way tug of war between the Browns, Saints, Panthers and Falcons, and thank God Paul wasn't here when I said that. The Browns then cited that they wanted an adult at quarterback, and on hearing that, and the Browns were meeting with Watson, Baker Mayfield released a well-worded statement for Baker, thanking the Cleveland public for their support, with the underlying tone that he was hurt by the talks, naturally so. Later that week, the Browns and then the Panthers were ruled out of the running, leaving it between the Saints and the Falcons. Baker Mayfield requested a trade, which the Browns refused, telling reporters he was going nowhere. And then at the very last hour, it seems, the Browns were suddenly back in the race and Watson was on his way to Cleveland. Then signed a 5-year, $230 million guaranteed deal with the Browns, which equates to $74 million pay rise versus what the Texans were paying him. And on Sunday, owner Jimmy Haslam, GM Andrew Berry, and coach Kevin Stefanski all released statements welcoming Watson to Cleveland, acknowledging the off-field issues, but ensuring they've done extensive research on the matter, and after discussions with Watson himself, were aligned on the situation and happy to move forward. I, for one, have got quite a few issues over all this, but Griff, Johnny, hit me with your initial views.
I think this fucking sucks. The trade we could see coming. Let's not kid. The fact it was the Browns surprised me, but actually, of the options available for Watson, the Browns is the sensible choice there. Saints are in transition. Panthers just seem to be in a merry-go-round of mediocrity. The Falcons, we'll get into the Falcons. The Browns is the sensible choice. But, I mean, I find the pay rise egregious, quite frankly. I mean, like, as well, like, what's going to happen in a couple of weeks is Goodell's going to do give a speech about we're all behind NFL's campaign for domestic violence. And you're like, but mate, you've just given a guy with 22 allegations against him. And I know innocent until proven guilty, but even under the suspicion, you've given that guy a $74 million pay rise.
I think what really kills me about the contract is how it's structured.
Yeah.
With the base salary for 2022 only $1,035,000, with the distinct knowledge that he's going to get suspended by the NFL. So they've gone into that. And to an extent, you can't really blame Deshaun Watson or his agent or even the Browns to some extent. They're playing the game which the NFL has set the rules of, in terms of, we know you're going to get suspended, so we're going to pay you less in 2022 to ensure that you get the full financial clout in the further years. For me that stinks. I agree with you, Johnny, in that there's 22 individual cases against him. If it was 1, 2, maybe 3, you could say, okay, that's three women with a bit of a vendetta against him. But to organise 22 people, for me, there's a behavioural issue there in how he's gone about seeking women on Instagram and then approaching them and doing God knows what. And it feels like he's been rewarded for what is sitting out a year and then demanding a trade and moving on. It stinks.
He's professionally, like, he sat out a year at the Texans.
Got paid $11 million.
$11 million for being a safety in practice. He's... And you just can't get past the personal issues. Even if it was free, it's still free too many. I mean, quite frankly, the guy needs to be shot out of a cannon to the moon, where he fuck off, mate. But yeah, no, it's. I think it just is. It sometimes some days like we've got a WhatsApp group and we share the news when it comes in. And some days you just look at it and you think, it's really hard to be an NFL fan right now. And, you know, it's just rich old men making the decisions, and they don't give a shit.
Win at all costs.
So on
ethics.
That point, what is Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski's job? It's win the Super Bowl. And they took a massive step towards winning the Super Bowl. Have they upgraded from their previous quarterback?
Potentially, yeah.
So this always comes down to the same thing that we end up in a debate in, because I'm an arsehole, which is I don't think sports should be the moral arbiter for anything. I have zero doubt that he inappropriately had some form of contact with 22 plus women. But I can entirely see why the Browns don't care. They're paying a massive contract, a bit like with the Jags, where they have to overpay to get people, because people have seen Cleveland had 1 year of success and then gone backwards. And they've paid massively for a guy who makes them immediately a Super Bowl contender.
I think they're odds effectively halved.
And I on a sporting level, I have zero issue because he's available.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. On just a footballing issue, I've got absolutely no problem with the trade is huge. I don't think we've ever seen a trade that big for a quarterback who is a known quantity.
Yeah.
You know, from a purely footballing, purely sporting point of view, it's an unbelievable move, and quite rightly, the Cleveland Browns are going to be now one of the favourites to win the Super Bowl, providing he plays 17 games and they get into the playoffs.
And he won't this year.
Which he probably won't this year.
Probably won't this year.
So, and within the next 3 years, let's say, they've got as good a chance as anyone now in the AFC of winning the Super Bowl, more so than when they had Baker.
Does the year out... I mean, there's been plenty of, really good quarterbacks who have had, not a year out because of injury, but a year out because of, whether it be personal issues or issues in Houston. But will he come back as good? I'm sure he will. But
I expect he will. He's young. He's still fairly young. He's still only 27.
If I told you Andrew Luck was coming back tomorrow and he wanted to play for the Giants, you'd take my arm off to get
absolutely. Well, yeah,
because you'd have no doubt that 4/5 of Andrew Luck from what he was would be an improvement for your team.
Yeah.
So the Browns are simply looking at this and saying, we just went from the 15th best team in the NFL to top 7 or 8,
top 5, I'd probably say, based on their roster at the moment,
and that is their job. We don't have to like it on a personal level. And my whole point here is he absolutely did it. Guess what? Ben Roethlisberger absolutely did it. And then he won Super Bowl and he was a cult hero. And do you know what? He's never cared that he wasn't popular. And the Steelers have never cared that he wasn't popular because bad news soon blows away. Ukraine has been in the news less this week than it was last week because people just roll past onto the next thing, and that is what will happen.
I heard a good quote from Paul Tagliabue, who's the former commissioner of the NFL, who basically said, all's good that ends.
Yep.
And I think... Look, I don't agree with you in terms of like splitting up sport and the ethics of it. I think when you've got sporting personalities, I think because of their fame, because of the fact that they appear on TV every single week, in magazines, websites, and they're so exposed to the general public.
Don't use the word exposed.
In some cases, too much. I think they have a moral obligation to be role models. And I'm sorry, yes, you didn't sign up to be a role model, but you did sign up to be a sports star. And that nowadays, that's a package.
Take the cash, you take the responsibility.
Yeah.
If you're going to pay $230 million, I'm not going to lie, you're a fucking role model.
Yeah, I wouldn't want, if I and my family were Brown supporters, I would not want my son wearing a Deshaun Watson jersey.
Okay.
Just because I think, and yeah, you're right on Ben Roethlisberger. You know, he did something wrong, and it doesn't get blown under the carpet. The same with Ray Lewis. It's always remembered, and there's always going to be that tarnish. And I'd say if Ben Roethlisberger comes in 5 years' time and it comes to the Hall of Fame, that will come up. He'll probably go in, but I guarantee you that will come up. I don't think Deshaun Watson is a great signing from a footballing point of view. He'll probably go on and try and rehabilitate his character by doing lots in the community in Cleveland. That's great. At the end of the day, though, he needs to sort out the legal issues. He should settle those 22 cases as soon as humanly possible so he can end this and we can all move on with football. Because he's going to be in the league one way or another. He's probably going to get suspended. Let's get over it and move on. But I still don't like it.
Here's the biggest issue I have, which is he's shown no contrition or acknowledgement of the fact that anything bad has happened.
Yeah.
Now that I don't like, because I'm on board with everybody fucks up. Because I'm sitting at this table at 38 years old and I've had my fair share. And I would imagine most people that we know have had their fair share. His might be on a grander scale, but let's be honest, everything these people do in their lives is on a grander scale because of who they are and what they get paid. It's not an excuse, but just acknowledge, do you know what? I've made some errors. I've obviously offended some of these people. Perhaps some of the allegations are not true. I really don't know. I've read some of them. I have no doubt that some of them are true. They're extremely graphic. The descriptions are all very similar. It seems likely that these 22 people are telling the truth. So acknowledge that there's a problem, deal with it, and then start to rehabilitate your figure. Don't just brush it under the carpet and hope that it goes away while you're playing good ball.
I think the fact that we're going to come on to talk about Matt Ryan's trade. Matt Ryan was traded yesterday, 2 days ago.
Yep.
He's already done a press conference. Deshaun Watson, we're recording on a Tuesday. He got traded on a Friday. We haven't had a press conference yet. And we all know exactly why. Because you can't put the guy in front of the camera because the first question is going to be about this. And that's not what the Browns want. So the Browns know this is a bad look.
Yeah, it is. Let's not crucify the Browns though, because the Panthers, Saints, and Falcons all wanted him as well.
Oh, yeah.
And this
there
is my
were
point.
and there were
Every
others as
team
well.
in the NFL, bar maybe 6, really wanted Deshaun Watson, even if they weren't all available to actually take him.
Yeah.
Because he is an upgrade for 25 teams.
Quite possibly, yeah. No, I completely agree with
and
you.
it's all about winning. That's all they care about, and that's how that's the lens you have to look at it from.
Let's take it off the teams because I agree with you. Every team wants to win, every owner wants to win, every GM, coach, player wants to win. That's why they're in the game, is to win a Lombardi trophy. So let's kind of divert it more to, okay, the NFL is an organisation. Should they be doing more?
Yes.
Right, yeah, here we go.
There's no point even finishing the question.
They should already have made this very clear.
We've been saying this for a year. Like they have stuck their head in the ground, and they're waiting either for him to resolve it or they're waiting to be pushed. Do it, go out in front, take the lead.
I think Roger Goodell has to come out and say, right, Deshaun Watson, until this is settled, whenever there's a settlement, no one wins because whoever's getting accused is going to lose a lot of money, and whoever gets paid a lot of money is probably still the money's great and all that, but they're still not going to feel aggrieved. So everyone loses. So get it settled, get it sorted, and then let's move on to football. I think at the NFL, women working there, both in terms of administration role, marketing, whatever, but also kind of people within the sport itself. How can they go to work at the NFL when the NFL is sitting there going, we're just going to ignore this whole thing?
Yeah.
Well, of course, Gary said to me, do women really have a role in the NFL? Hi, Gary.
But no, like literally,
But do you know what?
What
makes you think that a female executive isn't as ruthless as a male executive?
Nothing. Absolutely.
I'm sure that whichever female executives were involved in any of these decisions,
I would rather Roger Goodell,
from a business point of view,
right at the moment, be a bit more ruthless with it.
I don't give a flying fuck about the executives, but if I was a female football fan, I'd be saying, this fucking sucks, quite frankly. You are parading he was a horrible shit. And you had Big Ben for years. And I'm sorry, but I know you're saying, it doesn't take much every Sunday to, you go on Twitter, people there, don't forget. I know that it's to separate sport and morals is really hard. Because, look at football. Wales currently don't have a manager because their current one, their full-time one, is facing a court case. You've got Greenwood, who's currently suspended. They're like, it doesn't go, it's everywhere.
Joey Barton, remember him?
Joey Barton, this week, was in court.
Yep.
I don't even realise.
For punching his wife.
This is usually where Paul brings up the website which has the list of NFLarrest.com, which is the fact that it exists is absurd.
Here's the one I want to bring up that I think is relevant because it involves the Browns. Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Everybody stepped back and went, hang on, following the Ray Rice incident, we can't touch Kareem Hunt. And the Browns went, he's going to make us much better.
The Browns have got a history of it. They drafted Antonio Callaway, who would have been a first-round pick had he not had massive off-the-field issues. Josh Gordon is another one that they brought him back. They suspended.
You can say these things haven't worked, but their sole focus is, will they make us a better team?
Yeah,
and the answer is
I'd also say, there's probably not a single team in the NFL that hasn't had an issue where there's been some player. Like, I'm a 49ers fan, Alden Smith.
John Brown.
Yeah. Who was the linebacker we had? Reuben Foster. Right? Every team's got it.
Has there been any miscreants at the Patriots?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
So I think it's about time the NFL just got a bit more ruthless when it comes to things like domestic violence, things like sexual assault, anything.
And I agree with you, but unless it comes from the top down,
I
don't think it's fair to expect the teams to do anything other than try and win.
Completely agree with you there.
And that is why I was very quiet when our group was going off saying, well, I wouldn't want him, blah, blah, blah. No, that's fine. But in the prism that they're given, can you win within this confine? The answer is, we can have that guy and we can get 50% better overnight. And that is it. It's, yes, you're right. If I was a Browns fan and I had kids, I wouldn't be buying them a Deshaun Watson jersey because of what's happened, but I wouldn't stop them cheering for the team because the team is now really good.
Yeah.
And that's where you draw the line.
Do you know what? It should be an exciting time to be a Browns supporter. But I think, bar the very, very hardcore Browns supporters who just forget about everything else apart from winning, I would hazard a guess that a good majority are thinking, all right, we got better. What does it cost us?
Yeah, it hasn't cost them their dignity because they've never had that. But
exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
I, for one, have always wanted the Browns to succeed. They've always been that plucky underdog. I can't see myself thinking, Browns against Steelers. I'm going to be one of the Steelers.
The only way this is a happy ending for everyone is if he snaps his ACL or something, falls over in day one.
Which is a horrible thing to say, but yes, you're right.
But if that happened, everyone would go, well, that's karma, there you go.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because that's what people are like. So,
where's Vontae's Perfect when you need it?
Bloody hell.
Doing a hit job.
Anyway, look, we spent more time on that than the Browns have spent doing due diligence, so...
That is ridiculous, by the way. They've claimed they've done due diligence because I've read some of the reports and I don't think
they didn't even speak to the opposing counsel.
Did they not?
No.
It doesn't sound.
He's come out and said no one approached us. Realistically, he's always going to be biased, but at least take it with a pinch of salt.
So what you're telling me is they asked Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, from what I can tell,
and his agent.
Yeah.
Okay, just check.
Anyway, we'll move on to the QB merry-go-round. So after being spurned by Watson, the Falcons decided to move on from Matt Ryan, who they sent to the Colts for a third-round pick, and then immediately signed podcast favourite Marcus Mariota in a 2-year, $18.75 million
back,
deal.
Baby.
Yeah.
He's back.
Back as a starter.
Oh, can you smell it? Mariota and Winston in the same division.
It's going to be so good.
So great.
Chills. I know how happy Gary is about this.
Oh, man. All those picks.
I couldn't be happier. Well, do you know what? Mariota's done exactly what I said, which is sat for a couple of years somewhere and come back with a second opportunity. It'll be the only opportunity he gets, but at least he's with Arthur Smith, who was his coordinator at Tennessee. And like I said to you before the podcast starts, I think they're after Malik Willis, who is very similar to Mariota. They sit him behind because none of this year's quarterbacks are ready.
No.
None of them are ready. So you sit behind Mariota for a year or two. The only problem they've got with that is how many 16 or 17 game seasons has Mariota played? I think it's none because he's
Probably
never 100% fit. So there is that issue. But in terms of, basically, it's the Jared Goff scenario. You can win a few games and not look like a complete dumpster fire, but he's not going to cost you a pick outside the top 10. Like you're going to be in that top 10 for picking a quarterback or whatever else you need next year. He's not going to generate 8 wins. I don't think on this team with this terrible roster.
No, I mean it's a pretty bad roster in terms
5
of
wins maybe at the moment.
I think if they get to 5 wins, I think that's a result.
But I think it's fair reward for Mariota for spending 2 years backing up Carr and looking good when he's been asked to play.
It's a no-lose situation for the Falcons, I think, because you're right. It's like you bring in a quarterback who's not going to get paid much. I think we looked at the contract. He's $7 million for the first year, and then an option for 12 later on. Completely agree with you, Griff. I think they are going to draft someone, and it's exactly what they did in San Francisco. They're going to sit him for a year. If Mariota does get injured, they'll probably throw him in and hope for the best. If not, we'll see what Mariota does and take it from there.
The more interesting point of this particular trade is the Colts ending up with Matt Ryan.
For a third-round pick is a bargain.
I couldn't agree more. Clearly, the Falcons said to Matt Ryan, look, we have a shot at Deshaun Watson. We're going to take it. And if it doesn't come through, but you want to move, then we will let you pick where you want to go. Because I think that's what they've done. And he's looked around and gone, that team with no quarterback has got one of the best O-lines, and I don't want to get beaten up anymore. It's a brilliant move. It's the best quarterback they've had since Andrew Luck retired.
Yeah, absolutely.
Phillip Rivers got them to the playoffs.
Yep.
Matt Ryan is in a better place in his career than Phillip Rivers was. So the Colts are now, for me, the best team in the AFC South. They're overtaking the Titans.
I maybe wouldn't agree with that. I think they're level pegging. I don't think there's much difference between the Colts.
You don't think Matt Ryan is better than Tannehill?
I think Matt Ryan is better than Tannehill. I think that the Titans as a team, because it is a team game, I think the Titans... Colts defense flat as to deceive, I feel.
Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, he's brilliant.
The only
Derek Henry?
Yeah, they're even. The only weak spot on the Colts is their wide receiver group.
Yeah.
Which they're going to need to fix because Matt Ryan has always been successful, but he's always had Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley.
So we were chatting about it last night. Go out and sign Julio Jones. You could probably get him on the cheap, and you
very much get him on the cheap.
You reunite him with Matt Ryan and just see what happens. At least then you've got a genuine number one wide receiver, or at least someone who knows how to be a number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
Pick him up, pair him with Pittman, maybe draft another wide receiver. This is another draft with good depth at wide receiver. And like you say, you've got Jonathan Taylor. They signed a tight end as well. I can't remember who recently. They've then got a receiving core. They've got a great offensive line. They have got a good defense. They are definite contenders in the AFC South. No doubt about that.
Absolutely. If they don't make the playoffs this year, there's something desperate.
I think if they don't make it this year, then Frank Reich and perhaps Chris Ballard are gone.
This is Frank Reich's 5th season.
Fourth
season.
Do you need Julio Jones when you've got Kekikuti?
Yes.
Can I just say, going back to Atlanta, have you seen they've re-signed Patterson?
Yes.
And I think that's huge for them.
I'm not sure.
Because he did his tweet that when he noticed the Matt Ryan trade of like better start warming up then.
Better start warming up the arm.
Yeah. But yeah, no.
He's doing the right thing by Cordarrelle Patterson. He's looked around and thought, do you know what? The only place that I've been a Pro Bowl star player in this league is this team. And I need to stay here and build on that, because if he chooses to move somewhere else, look at how other teams have struggled to utilise him. Patriots did a good job, but only in the return game. Yeah. No one else has got anything like this production out of him. This is the best thing for him. And with that and a mobile quarterback, and this is not just flashing the Mariota thing for the sake of it, but it actually makes it harder to defend if you've got two mobile players out of the backfield as opposed to, oh, well, if Cordero Patterson's on the field, we know Matt Ryan's handing it off to him. Because you knew that was happening. So I think it's a good move. Like I say, the Falcons are in rebuild and they just want to win a few games to look
heavy rebuild. I think as soon as they lost out on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, that decision was then made, obviously, to, all right, Matt Ryan, you go, we're going to enter that full rebuild phase. I think that also guarantees Arthur Smith at least 2 to 3 years. And they've got quite a sympathetic organisation in terms of Arthur Blank is pretty generous in how long he gives coaches and also GMs the time to kind of develop a team. I think they'll be given at least 3 years to develop that team.
This goes back to my Jerry Jones point, though, which is Arthur Blank is chuffing old and wants to see his team win a Super Bowl. So I think that patience gets shorter the older he gets.
It does, but at least he got to a Super Bowl recently.
He does not want to be reminded of that.
No one does. So carrying on the quarterbacks, I did write last on the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about another set in a minute, though. The Bills also been busy. They took Case Keenum from the Browns for a 7th round pick. And they re-signed Matt Barkley as well for another 1-year deal.
Does he deserve a mention on any podcast?
Well, he's getting a mention on this one.
Well, the Patriots re-signed Brian Hoyer.
You've also signed Ty Montgomery.
Yay!
Brilliant. Case Keenum's had 7 NFL clubs now.
Yeah.
Anyone want to take a guess at 7?
Rams.
Yep.
Broncos.
Vikings.
Yep.
Browns.
Yep.
Bills.
Yep.
Ooh.
2 more. The one he started with and the one he went to before the Browns.
Well, I genuinely don't know.
He got drafted by the Houston Texans before he went to the Rams. Then he went back to the Texans and then back to the Rams again. And he also played for Washington.
Of course.
I did not remember he played for Washington.
So there you go.
I try not to remember anything about Washington.
No. He's turning into the modern day Josh McCown.
Somebody's got to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leaves us with some quarterback needy teams. So as far as I can tell,
too many quarterbacks for the number of chairs remaining.
Yeah, effectively. I think Jimmy Garoppolo and Baker Mayfield are probably the two not outstanding as in brilliant, but outstanding as in they're standing anywhere. Where are they going to be in a month's time?
Well, look at it from the other direction. The other direction is which teams require quarterbacks. Seattle, because they've got Drew Lock, who's dog turd and was just a make weight in the deal. Yeah, he's fine as a backup.
I think they're going to run with him. I honestly think they're going to go with
really?
Drew Lock, yeah.
I don't. For a second do I believe that. So I think the problem they've got...
those two, the only real one, would Jimmy move him in the division? And
here's why. It's because Seattle's O-line is so bad, you cannot put Jimmy G behind the O-line. If it's either of these two, it has to be Baker.
Yeah.
And I'm still throwing Gardner Minshew in the hat because I think he's got a chance of starting for one of these teams. Because the other team that's left is Carolina.
I think, the Panthers are the other team that need a quarterback.
They're kind of locked into Sam Darnold, but they've already shown they're willing to not play him. I don't think anyone's taking him off their hands, but I think at least the O-line is marginally better than Seattle.
They've made some good signings in free agency to strengthen that O-line as well.
So maybe Jimmy would go there because it's not in the division. But I actually think Jimmy ends up staying at the Niners. I think maybe you cut him and bring him back or something. But I don't think Trey Lance is necessarily ready. I really don't. What have you seen that makes you think he's ready?
Well, what have you seen that makes you think he's not ready, though?
Well, when I saw him, I thought, ugh.
That's not ready.
Yeah.
He had some good throws in the game against the Houston Texans.
And he also had some incredibly poor decision-making.
But he's a rookie.
As rookies do.
Yeah.
But all Jimmy G has done is win. And I don't get it. I don't know why you're so desperate to move on.
I'm not desperate. Gary's desperate because Gary hates Jimmy G. And I agree. You're right. He just wins games.
How many championship games you been to?
2 in the last 3 years. Couldn't agree more. But for some, that's not good enough. And they want to see the back of Jimmy G and move on with Trey Lance, who we've invested 3 first-round draft picks. And I can understand that. But I also agree with you. It's like, all right, if we can't trade him and get good value for him, we might as well use him and give Trey Lance more time.
Yeah, didn't do Aaron Rodgers in the arm.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Get some,
So I don't know.
cornerbacks, you'll be fine.
I don't know.
Got one cornerback.
Baker, for me, might end up putting a Mitch Trubisky or Marcus Mariota and having to sit somewhere.
I think, and I've heard this say on a couple of other shows, that he needs to go somewhere without the ego that he's got. Like, he needs to be humbled. And I think players like kind of Carson Wentz has been humbled by the situation he's in now.
Oh, that's made a great deal of difference.
No, I think he's been humbled now. So I think you'll see a different Carson Wentz with the commies.
Really?
Potentially, yeah.
Why do you think he can be a different bloke? He's a bellend.
Well,
He's uncoachable. He's unpersonable.
right, he was. I'm saying he could be different now. That whole experience of like, you were in Indianapolis for a year, you were the man, and suddenly you got the rug taken right out of you, and you've been shifted out to the Washington commies. For me, that would be a humbling experience.
I don't think he knows the meaning of the word humble. I think the commies are going to seriously regret jumping the gun and going for Wentz when all these other players
I think
are
you're
available.
probably going to be right.
Would they
but
not
I
be better off with Baker?
I think
I'd take
From what
Baker over Wentz.
from what I read, Washington just wanted a quarterback now, and the one that was most ready to trade was Wentz.
You have got
If they'd have waited a week, they could have ended up with
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
They just, I mean, it's not a surprise. The Washington back office, made a poor decision because they wanted to be ready to go.
Didn't they just want to get in the news for something other than, touching up women and being inappropriate?
Yeah. And they've already fired both Grudens, so they're running out of options.
Just another organisation that needs sacking.
The chances of Baker and Darnold having to play it out for the Panthers, picks 1 and 2.
I'm going to say none.
Really?
Picks 1 and 3.
Sorry, picks 1 and 3. First and second quarterbacks taken.
Yeah. Sandwiched either side of Saquon Barkley.
They were. What a terrible pick that turned out to be.
Bar Josh Allen, you could probably say.
I think somebody's going to be left standing because no one mixed Mariota into this deal.
No, everyone forgot about him.
I didn't forget about him.
You wouldn't forget about him.
He's not shut up about him.
No.
Exactly.
But yeah, I do have this feeling that there's a merry-go-round, like merry-go-rounders that what's the game where the chairs go missing?
What?
Musical chairs.
There's a musical chairs.
The game where the chairs go.
There's a game of musical chairs going on with quarterbacks, and I think Baker's going to be left out. He is. I don't feel it's not all about talent, but I think he's unlucky in a way that he's become available at a time when only really there's space for two teams, and
it is a bit. I agree with you on that.
They're two shitty teams.
He'll be on somebody's squad, but he may not be the starter.
Yeah.
There's no chance he stays with the Browns, is he? After everything that's gone on, because really, I know they brought in Jacoby Brissett, who is not a like for like replacement for Deshaun Watson, but at least he's going to be playing a similar game.
It's a strange move to trade away Case Keenum, who's a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett, when you've just signed a guy that we think is going to be suspended for a year.
Yeah, well, I don't think he'll be suspended for a year. I think he's probably like 6, 7, 8 games.
All right, half a year.
Yeah, so Jacoby Brissett comes in, plays a similar game plan to Deshaun Watson. I get that, but with the way that we talked about the Watson deal structure, they could probably afford to keep both Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson.
Baker will never play for
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he's mentally checked out, so he's going somewhere. It's a case of where he's going. I haven't put this in the rundown, but a couple of other quarterback signings. Jameis Winston is back in New Orleans.
Yay.
It's the right move for them.
Yep.
It gives them some continuity. He played 7 games and he threw 14 touchdowns and 3 picks to start last year. You don't get all the yardage out of him when he's not taking all the chances, but they were winning games. 7 games, they were 5-2, I think, under Jameis.
And he should have Michael Thomas back as well, which is...
Really? Is that guaranteed?
Not guaranteed, no, but it's as likely as anything.
Mr. MIA? I'm not sure about that.
I think he comes back. I'm going to say that. The Jets just announced on Twitter that they've re-signed Mike White. They also...
Joe Flacco still
and Joe Flacco as well, I was about to say. And there was...
And somehow they still have the worst quarterback room in the NFL.
Well, This is good. And I've not put it, I've not put it on the running.
You've got Tyrod as your backup. I'd take Tyrod over Zach Wilson, Mike White, and Joe Flacco at this point. Right, true. I would take Tyrod. Honestly.
So here's the question that's been doing the rounds recently, following a workout that he did with Tyler Lockett. Would you take Colin Kaepernick over those three?
Why have you just mentioned that name on this podcast?
Because it's been doing the rounds.
No, he's a media personality.
That's a bit harsh. He was a great quarterback.
He was a good quarterback 5 years ago.
Okay, so he was a good quarterback.
5 years ago? 6 years ago?
I can't remember how many
5 years ago. Let's be generous, say 5. No, I would not.
So Joe Flacco and Mike White are better quarterbacks than Colin Kaepernick. And also, let's throw in Scott Tolzien and David Blau.
Is Scott Tolzien still in the league?
I don't know, but
let's not throw in Scott Tolzien. Let's throw in David Blau. I'd take Colin Kaepernick over David Blau and Tim Boyle. Because he's the other.
So we can agree that.
But I would say yes. I would say because of their recent playing experience, I would take Joe Flacco and Mike White over Colin Kaepernick.
No, Kaepernick's workout looks really good.
Yeah, I can look good in a video.
If I was the Seahawks, I'd take Kaepernick because it might detract from more than all the people going. Well, what is the point of you? At least someone will go. Oh, well, we might as well see what Kaepernick's like.
Do you not think though? It's a bit like the Panthers bringing Cam back. It just didn't work.
And it might not work.
But why would you take that risk as Colin Kaepernick? Is he broke now?
No, he's doing
so why would you want to bother? Because the chances are you're not going to be any good.
Better than...
He wasn't that good when he left.
If your option is Drew Lock, I'd be looking at anything.
Would you take him over Daniel Jones?
Who? Colin Kaepernick? No, but I'd quite happily have him in my quarterback room.
At least you take him over Tyrod.
No, but you take him as a third quarterback, maybe.
I mean, you can't have the biggest distraction the NFL's had in 5 or 6 years as your third quarterback. If you're signing him, you've got to play him.
Don't agree with that.
And he's not going to be worth a start in any team. Just isn't. When Andrew Luck retired,
I knew you were going to bring
he
Andrew
still
Luck.
Looked more or less like Andrew Luck. When Colin Kaepernick finished playing, didn't retire, when he finished playing, he was on a poor run. He'd already been relegated to the second.
He was on a poor team.
There was a shitty 49ers.
Good quarterbacks.
Chip Kelly as the coach.
Quarterbacks elevate the team they're on, and he didn't.
Not with Chip Kelly as coach. Look what he did at the Eagles.
He was he had a winning record at the Niners.
Chip Kelly.
Or did he have a winning record at the Eagles? I can't remember which way around it was. He had a winning record at one of the two.
Wasn't the Niners. He lasted one. He was there for 1 year.
In that case, he had a winning record at the Eagles. But I don't know. Colin Kaepernick was already on the dive when his career came to an end. He just was, and I don't think he'd be that good now. And I never want to hear his name mentioned on this feckin' podcast again. I'm
just going to mention it just to piss you off. Right, we'll take a break there, and we'll come back with all the other news and reviews. Right, welcome back. So there are a few other things happening outside the QB position. So we're going to focus on one team which last year Griff christened as contenders. And whilst they made the playoffs, I don't think anyone really believed they had a hope of winning it all. However, they've made some blockbuster moves over the past week. So Raiders trading for Packers wide receiver Davante Adams, then signing Chandler Jones after trading away Yannick Ngakoue to the Colts in exchange for Rock Ya-Sin. So the question now has to be asked, with Davante Adams and with a very legit pass rush with the amazing Max Crosby, are the Raiders genuine contenders now?
The rich man's Nick Bosa, we call him.
Fuck off.
It's really hard because it is a good team, but I'm still unsure of the new head coach because he didn't do very well last time. But we let's judge him on the here and now. And it's a really tough division, but I think that I don't want to use the word contenders, but based on
that was the question.
Based on strength of squad on paper, you've got to say it's a really, really it's the best Raiders team on paper I've ever seen. Quite frankly, let's not get into it. There isn't a lot of competition when it comes, but Yeah, no, it worries me because I don't like to live in a world where the Raiders are good. They like the Chiefs. I think I'd like to see some development in the Chiefs team and Juju. I don't know, but yeah, in that division, they're taking huge steps. The Chargers are taking huge steps.
The Broncos are taking one massive step.
Taking huge steps. I mean, it's exciting. It's really great. And I think they are. They really. I'm trying to be nice about it, but I'm trying. It's hard because
it's like you want to say they're contenders, but there's everything in the history of the Raiders plus the AFC West as it is now, which screams they're just gonna fuck this up.
Yeah, but on the law of averages, they're gonna get it right at some point. Like if they can't do it with this team, then you might as well just pack up as a franchise and just drive into the sea.
I think AFC and NFC West are two of the best divisions we've ever seen.
Yeah,
they're seriously loaded up. The Raiders' biggest weakness is McDaniels because we have no idea what's going to happen with him in charge. Let's just say he's a non-factor. He doesn't give them any wins or losses. They just go as they are. If you just look at the team on paper, they are every bit the equal of the other teams in that division. They just are.
They are.
And so it's going to come down to which teams win in the division. Who manages to scrape a win away at someone else in that division. So you say there's a chance they'll just Raider it, they'll butcher it like they normally do, but there's more chance that the Chargers charge it up. They did last year.
This is true.
There's a lot of Chargers and the Broncos. I mean,
I've already said I don't think you can just anoint the Broncos as being brilliant because they've got Russell Wilson. I really don't. I don't see it.
I think you can say they're going to take a step forward. I think whether that step forward is big enough to get them in the playoffs, given everything else that happened in the AFC West over this offseason, I don't know.
Somebody is coming out of this division looking stupid this year, because somebody won't. At least one team won't make the playoffs.
So on that note, AFC quarterbacks this year: Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill. No particular order there. That is 10 quarterbacks who are good starting quarterbacks. All right, threw Ryan Tannehill at the last minute to round it up, but there's 7 playoff positions.
Yeah.
3
of those quarterbacks aren't going to the playoffs.
I noticed McCorkle Jones wasn't in there.
Yeah, and there's another 6 starting quarterbacks which aren't in there.
But this is the thing: if you look at the AFC, there's very few teams which, if judged, I sent Jim my list the other day. If judged purely on the quarterbacks, there's very few teams that you would say won't make the playoffs. You've got the Jets won't make the playoffs, just judged on Zach Wilson.
Yep.
You've got the Jags and the Texans won't make the playoffs, judged just on their quarterbacks.
Yep.
And then everyone else is... That's 13 teams.
I mean, everyone in the AFC North, you can say, yes, Trubisky is the weak link
but he's
at
been in the
quarterback.
playoffs twice.
He's been in the playoffs twice, and he's on a Steelers team which makes the playoffs despite having weak links at quarterback.
Yeah.
Or is at least competitive.
You can't even judge it by quarterback because you've got Trubisky who has a defense. You've got McCorkle Jones who is...
I love that we just decided we're definitely calling him McCorkle.
What is his name?
Yeah, I know it's his name. I think we should go with it. McCorkle, yeah.
But yeah,
made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs with the defense behind him. And we can't discount this because, as well, what the Chargers have done is taken a team with a great quarterback and a great offense, but didn't make the playoffs, and added Khalil Mack. And, I can't remember who else. Because
Joseph Sebastian Day, a defensive tackle.
Good. But yeah,
JC Jackson as well.
Yes, that's
the one.
That was the one I was trying to think of. You know,
Not Joseph Sebastian, who no one could have ever heard of. Sounds like he was in Falco.
He was a really good. He's a really good defensive tackle, and the biggest issue with the Chargers last year was that you could run through them.
That's true.
Put a good defensive tackle in, that stops almost immediately.
The original question was, what difference does Davante Adams make?
Well,
basically.
Davante Adams and Chandler Jones.
But Davante Adams, when he last played with Derek Carr at Fresno State, how many touchdowns did he score that season?
Lots, I'm going to guess.
24.
That's quite a lot.
In a 13-game season.
yeah.
That's mad. And that is why he wanted to go back. They are friends. And this is... The bigger problem here is, what does this say about Aaron Rodgers?
Well, for me, that's the biggest question, because I think when this trade was announced, the overriding question on the Twitter forums, whatever, was, did Aaron Rodgers know about this before he signed his contract? And reports have come out and said he did. In which case, did Aaron Rodgers does he care about winning, or does he just want the money?
I think he just wants the money.
Because you can't say now, even though I fully expect the Packers to be in the market for a veteran wide receiver and to probably draft one, maybe two wide receivers going against their usual trait. Even so, that's going to take some time for him to develop that chemistry which he had with Davante Adams.
Yeah.
So, like, it's
I
for
don't
me,
think
it's a
you
big.
ever get that again, you know.
No, I mean you had it. We've seen it with Brady, with journeyman wide receivers who he just knows, they know what they're going to do, and we've seen it with Brady with good wide receivers as well, and it goes to the absolute next level. There's the reason the Packers went out in the playoffs was because Aaron Rodgers was scared to throw to anyone else.
Yeah, but now look at who he's got to throw to. So you got Randall Cobb.
Yep, you got Alan Lazard. He's still there, isn't he?
Yep, and then
No,
Chris Blair. Yeah, exactly.
these are just made up names.
No. And there was another one. I genuinely thought it was like a regen name. Rico Gafford.
Yeah, I signed him on Retro Bowl
How did that
on the
work?
phone. No, that's just they're not like So I mean,
Jerron Winfrey.
you're just making these up.
I'm sorry, I'm just throwing names at walls here.
Yeah, Jared
They did-
Silverman.
They did re-sign Tonyan,
Yeah, to
which
a
is
1 year
a
deal.
target that Rodgers does like. But without Davante Adams, he could be blunted.
Yeah.
He could be. Because I've not seen anything out of him in the last two seasons that makes me think he wants to throw to Alan Lazard.
No,
Not really.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Where did Equiminius go? Bears?
he went to the Bears.
it's in terms of Davante Adams, you're going to have to probably get 3 players to replace the output because 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
11 touchdowns it was a down year for him because he got 18 the year before. It's
Marcus Valdez-Scantling's still there.
whoopee!
I know.
Yay.
Didn't think who the other one was.
That
That
makes
makes like to throw to.
Yeah, what it's doing is it just makes everyone else on that Raiders team better, Davante Adams, because suddenly, if you've got a fit Waller, you can't cover Waller, Adams, Renfro.
We had 1,000 yards last year.
1,000 yards.
Josh Jacobs as well, if he comes back fully fit.
I'd love to see a fully fit Josh Jacobs because he's
100%.
brilliant.
Yeah.
He also plays the Raiders, so I don't want to see a fully fit Josh Jacobs. But it could be really exciting.
I might adopt the Raiders as my not so plucky underdog team from the Browns.
I think you'll find I did that last year and I got booed.
Well, you did, and you called them a contender when they clearly
wasn't wrong.
weren't.
Super
They
Bowl
made the
contender.
playoffs.
You said yes, all right.
They contended to get to the playoffs.
Worth saying that on his arrival in Las Vegas, Davante Adams signed a 5-year, $140 million contract, which makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. That's something. Sticking with the AFC West, John mentioned it, but the Chiefs assigned Juju Smith-Schuster to a 1-year, $10.75 million deal. I'm amazed that he's still only 25. I feel like he's been around for like years and years and years, and maybe it's just all the hassle that has come with him. But I also feel this is an excellent move for him and the Chiefs because they've now got a genuine number 2 wide receiver to pair
Corey
with
Coleman.
Hill and Kelsey. Yes, Corey Coleman's there as well.
Well, you see, I wouldn't be surprised if Corey Coleman outperforms Juju.
Really?
Yeah, why not? Juju, is he all that?
I know I said something about you playing devil's advocate this week, but that's just taking the piss.
I don't know. I think Juju is overrated. He's a poor man's Tyreek Hill. And they've already got Tyreek Hill.
I don't think he's a Tyreek Hill type player
I think
at all.
McCole, Hardman, and what's his name, Pringle, are as good.
Byron Pringle.
Are as good.
He's gone somewhere else now.
McCole Hardman is then. I don't know. I just think he might get lost in the shuffle. They've still got, what's his name? Josh Gordon as well.
Yeah.
What makes you think Juju's going to be the Juju he was 2 years ago? Because he wasn't last year, wasn't
He played 5 games.
He played 5 games with a thumb at quarterback.
Yeah. It is hard to judge Juju because, 2019, 500 yards, but he had Duck Hodges and, so...
There's talent there. And I think if there's any coach that's going to scheme him open along with Hill and Kelsey on the field, I think it's Andy Reid.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a go, but...
All right. You're not convinced.
He should have moved
I'm
last
not
year.
sold. Yeah, I'm not sold on Juju.
Fair enough. Right, we're going to stay in the AFC because nothing happens in the NFC anymore, apparently. Von Miller signs with the Bills. He signed a 6-year contract worth $120 million. Seems a lot for a 32-year-old, but if you look at it, then realistically it's only a 3-year contract, so they can get out of it after 2025. Now, I had a lively debate with Vernon Kay on Twitter about this. Von Miller or Chandler Jones?
Miller.
Chandler Jones.
I'd say Miller as well.
Chandler Jones has been amazing and has outperformed Von Miller over the last 4 years.
Has he?
Yes. Statistically speaking, yes.
He's had a few more sacks. He had I think Von Miller had 9 sacks last year, and I think Chandler Jones had 10 sacks, but 5 of those came in one game.
They did.
And then Von Miller then went on to literally destroy every team in the playoffs.
I'll certainly grant you, I think it's much of a muchness.
Yeah. Similar age as well, similar contracts.
I have no concept of how old Chandler Jones is. I can't put.
He's also 32 years old. They're both.
I think it's a very rich contract for Von Miller, even if it is only a 3-year deal.
When you break it down, over the first 3 years, they both get paid $17.5 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he didn't stay with the Rams, but I know they needed to make some space, mainly because they've just upped Matt Stafford again.
Come on to that in a minute.
But yeah, I'm sure he'll be brilliant in Buffalo because he's been brilliant everywhere. I have no reason to doubt it. I'm surprised by the contract.
And like I said, on paper, it looks like a massive contract, but given it takes him until he's 38, he's not going to get past the third year.
No, seems unlikely.
Just there for an agent to say, "I got my."
What did Vernon Kay say?
Vernon Kay went with Chandler Jones. This is where I went with Von Miller. He was Chandler Jones.
Now.
Yeah, so you should. Here we go. Bengals have been going on doing unbengali things by spending money in areas of need. So they've gone on to build their offensive line. So last week we talked about Alex Kappa and we talked about Ted Karras. They've signed La'el Collins, have I pronounced that right? La'el Collins, who was released by the Cowboys for some odd reason. He gets a 3-year deal worth up to $30 million. They also replaced CJ Uzoma, who went to the Jets, with former Ravens and Falcons tight end Hayden Hurst, who signed a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. Bengals are doing a really good job, and it's quite unnerving to see.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I feel uncomfortable.
Learning to build on some success.
At the end of last season, I was like, I don't want to get on the Bengals bus because I'm still, there's...
Is that like the Wenger bus, but shitter?
Yeah, much shitter. But
good luck getting that out of your head.
But because the Jags were really good for 1 year, and then
just went back to being Jags.
Just went back to being Jags. But the way the Bengals have built, they've seen obvious weaknesses and built on them, and you think
I think the
it's
Jags
sensible.
The Jags is the wrong comparison. What you want to look at is, do they do what the Browns did and have 1 year, get into the playoffs, won a game against the Steelers? It was amazing. And then last season, they never really looked like getting back in the playoffs. They weren't really that good. All the runners-up from the Super Bowls recently have been crap.
Always struggle, yeah.
And I'd love to see the Bengals buck that trend, but it is a trend. So they're really going to have to pull out all the stops.
Yeah, but they're at the moment, let's say at the moment, all we can judge it is on paper, and on paper, like they've kept the options on offense. They've kept a lot of the defense that enabled that offense to shine so brightly, and they've added, Alex Kappa, Collins.
If you were CJ Uzama, why would you go to the Jets?
I do you know what I was writing that, and I was thinking this is like, why I would take less and stay with the Bengals, because the Jets is just going to. I think it's going to be another dumpster fire. Even if the Bengals are terrible,
they'll still be better than the Jets.
Yeah, you'll get more receptions. You're right. It comes down to
the Jets
cash.
Need a tight end, but
yeah,
I don't see what he is gaining out of it other than cash. I assume.
I completely agree. What I did love, and I read this, was last week when they were trying to sign L. Collins, Joe Burrow had Kappa, Karras, and Collins and their wives over for dinner, and like really kind of sold into like buying into the Bengals. And that's, for me, it's just...
Yeah, apparently he texted Leo Collins the next day and said, "Are you staying?" And Leo Collins replied, "You have a new bodyguard."
Yeah.
And that is what I think you're getting with the Bengals now, which is leadership from 100%. A player who genuinely wants to be there. It's not like when they had Carson Palmer, who couldn't wait to get out of there.
If I was a Bengals fan, after hearing that and after hearing that text from Collins saying, "Yeah, we've got a new body," I would be giddy with excitement for the next season, because I think this offense is going to take another. True, married 12 years. This offense could take another leap forward.
Do you just compare your wife to the O-line of the Bengals?
Yes.
You should not do that.
It's all right. She's in the next room. She doesn't understand football. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, I really love what the Bengals are doing, and going to be interesting to see what happens. Right, staying AFC North. The Steelers are doing more Steelery things by adding more experience to their O-line. They grabbed James Daniels, the guard from the Bears, to bolster their offensive line. And then they've added to what was an already great defense by giving Miles Jack a 2-year, $16 million deal after he was cut by the Jags. And I think this is another player who's probably just had enough of Jags, needs to move on. I kind of credit the Jags for just releasing him. I still think they probably could have got something for him, but it's a heck of a signing for the Steelers.
It's great. I mean, we've all been reading the Urban Meyer piece in The Athletic.
Comedy gold.
And you can understand why players wanted out, because Doug Pederson is going to be so much better. But imagine having 8 months of that. It's just you would, and especially coming after the Doug Marrone years, which were
Tom Coughlin debacle.
The Steelers, being a sensible organisation, add a linebacker to what is already a absolutely brilliant linebacker.
It's a similar deal with Miles Jack as it is to Mitch Trubisky, which is they're players who've shown some pedigree, not all the time, but they've played for bad organisations in bad situations. Now you're going to see what is the maximum we can get out of these talented players, because that's what the Steelers will do.
And they've got the right coach for it. What actually impressed me almost most about the moves that the Steelers have made in this offseason is that they still haven't got a GM.
Yeah.
This is an organisation that is so well built that if you cut the head off the monster, it just carries on rolling. Like they're such a good organisation, and it should be a model for what every other organisation in the NFL should be following.
I mean, at the moment they're lacking at wide receiver just because they've only got Claypool and Johnson, really. But If there's one thing you know the Steelers can do, it's take a 5th round wide receiver and turn him into an absolute star.
And there are so many good receivers in this year's class. Probably not quite at the upper levels of the last couple of years, but certainly in kind of rounds 2 or 3, you can trust that the Steelers will pick one up and he'll be bloody electric again. Right. I'm going to leave the AFC behind and finally move on to the NFC. And there's not really been much happening that's been making waves. There have been a few moves. So we'll start off with the Rams, current Super Bowl champions. They gave Stafford a 3-year extension worth $43 million a year. The rumour has it he left more on the table, so it gives the Rams the ability to strengthen the rest of the team, which is a fairly sensible move. One might say that's quite an adult thing to do. They used that cash. They brought in Allen Robinson on a 3-year deal worth $46 million. And I was saying previously, since 2018, Robinson is a top 10 receiver in catching inaccurate throws, so 72 in total. So imagine what he can do with Matt Stafford. And lastly, to kind of make room for Robinson, they did let Robert Woods go to the Titans for a 6th round pick. So I can't complain about anything the Rams are doing. I think they're really sensible getting Stafford on an extension. I think it's great that he's kind of recognised that he can't do it alone. It's a team game, as Gary would say. And bringing in Allen Robinson, I think, masterstroke. Like Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp, that could be a absolutely electric wide receiver duo.
Yeah, and they're leaving room so that when Beckham's fit, they can bring him back in as well and just have the best wide receiver class in the league.
Yeah, it's further sensible gain for the Rams. And that should be a concern for everyone in the NFC because they are going to end up being an even better looking team than they were on paper at the start of last year.
Yeah, I think NFC, it's Rams or Bucks, right?
Yeah, I think so. I love the Robinson signing, I really do.
The number 1 pick will be the Packers, and they'll fuck it up. But yeah, it's the Rams and Bucks who will be the Super Bowl representation.
You'd think so. So before we started this, we were laughing at the quarterbacks that have thrown down at Robinson. We had Blake Bortles, obviously, the immortal Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
Don't forget Chad Henne.
Of course, Chad Henne.
Yeah.
Chad Henne. He was there. Obviously, you've had Justin Fields, Andy Dalton, Nick Foles,
Mitch
Trubisky. It's just a who's who of terrible, terrible quarterbacks.
And yet he's always put up numbers. Bar last year, I think was the only year he didn't put up any significant yardage. He usually goes on to have a 1,000-yard season at least.
Yeah, he's played on teams that went 2-14, 1-15, 6-10. Like, nothing has ever gone well for him on one of these teams. Not really. He had that one good year with the Jags.
Yeah, you saw the jump that Odell Beckham had when he left Cleveland and went to...
I thought you were going to say when he left the Giants.
Oh, that as well. When he left Giants, then left Cleveland, and then went to an organisation with a good quarterback. So, I mean, there's precedent there for Allen Robinson having an absolute storming year.
Yeah.
For the Rams as well, it's less money than what Robert Woods was on, and they're the same age. So it makes perfect sense.
Back when the Jags had Allen Robinson, do you remember who else they had on the other side of the field? Another Allen.
Oh, Allen.
Allen Hurts, yes, who now plays for the Dolphins. And I thought those two were going to be two of the best wide receivers in the league. Obviously, they were on the wrong teams, but they've never really maximised their potential. I think Hearns ended up at the Cowboys, didn't he, for a little while?
That's right, yeah.
For a season or two. And then I think in 2020, Hearns didn't play because of COVID. I think he was one of the opt-outs. And then last year, I don't recall seeing him do anything either.
I don't remember him anywhere.
I believe he certainly was on the Dolphins. I'm fairly sure he didn't play last year either. I think he might have missed 2 years with COVID and other related injuries. So it'd be interesting to see what the two of them can do with where they are now, because 5 years ago, I thought they were going to be brilliant.
Yeah. Chose to opt out of 2020, placed on season-ending injury reserve in August, so never really made the season. So
Never played, yeah.
So we've not seen him for 2 years.
Not seen him for 2 years, but
that's a shame, yeah, because he
A
was
bit like Corey
he was
Coleman,
a good
who hasn't recorded a stat since 2018.
And yet it's just signed for the
And he's
Chiefs.
going to outperform Juju at the Chiefs.
Nah, he's fuck off, is he?
Yeah, takes that are going
He's
to come
gonna-
back and haunt you.
The first week of the NFL season, he's going to be sat at home counting his
He'll
traders.
be
He's
cut before the
He's,
yeah.
he's going to be cut
Yeah.
at the end of training camp. If you're the Packers, do you think would you have made a move for Allen Robinson, knowing everything that's gone on with Davante Adams? Because for me, that feels like a bit of a like for like replacement.
Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, one of them.
Yeah, anyone.
Somebody, they need a number one. Who's left on the free agency market?
Jarvis Landry, I think, is probably the best bet. I mean, Odell Beckham's still there, of course, but he's going to be injured for at
Can you
least.
have Odell Beckham and Aaron Rodgers on the same team?
I think you can now.
I'm not sure about that. That's a lot of ego to sort of shoehorn in.
Yes, you're right. It absolutely is. But on the subject of being humble, I think Odell Beckham went to the Rams a little bit humbled, not as much as maybe we'd want, but I think he probably recognises how much he needs a good quarterback to do the things that he's previously done with Eli Manning, who was an average quarterback. But I'm sure he can see if he's playing with Aaron Rodgers, he's going to get numbers. Sorry,
Count Eli's rings.
yeah, the old.
Twice as many as Rodgers.
Half an Eli.
He's half an Eli.
Half an Eli. I'm just going through the free agent list to see who's the next best wide receiver. Will Fuller.
Ooh.
Julio Jones is still there.
Kiki Cootie got mentioned earlier.
He's signed up at the Colts.
The other one that I think would have been interesting for the Packers is DJ Chark, who signed for the Lions.
He is now at the Lions, yeah, which I think is a good sign for the Lions.
It's a great signing for the Lions, but it'd have been an equally good signing for the Packers if they'd bothered to go and get him.
Yeah, it's just
I'm looking through the free agents.
that's it.
It's not great. Cole Beasley.
Yeah, 'cause why?
Tumbleweed.
What you need is another white vaccine denier on the Packers. That's what you need. Another one. The two can just riff together in the corner about it.
Sanu.
Goodness me.
Jesus.
Ty Sammy Watkins. It's a lot of.
Sammy Watkins would be a decent enough
He's
sign.
only 28.
It's another one of those players that just seems to have been around for
He's been around forever. But
donkey's years. But he was young when he came into the NFL.
But yeah, you start getting down and it's pretty poor reading. Ronaldo Scantling. What? That might be old, this one. But yeah, it's
not good.
no.
All right. Elsewhere, the Cowboys re-signed Leighton Vander Esch and DeMarcus Lawrence signed a restructured deal, which then allowed them to bring in Dante Fowler on a one-year deal, which boosts their pass rush following the departure of Randy Gregory. I don't think anyone cares about this, but it just gives us a chance to say Mick McCarthy.
Bastards!
Thank you.
I care. I think it's good work by the Cowboys. They basically held on to as many good pieces as they can. And Dante Fowler can be every bit as good as Randy Gregory. Well,
Potentially, yeah.
I think they've done a good job.
Yeah, I think I worry about the pieces they let go, and I don't think that offensive line is going to be as good as it once was. They let Collins obviously gone. We mentioned him; he's gone to the Bengals. Connor Williams, who was a decent bit part player on that O line, is now in Miami. So yeah, it could end up with that getting smashed. The Giants brought in Matt Breida. Yeah.
It's only worth a mention because Saquon only plays 6 games a season, and Matt Breida is a good player.
Yeah, it's fast.
What happened to all the trade talk of Saquon, by the way?
It's just gone.
Is there no market for him?
It's the same with Bradbury. Like the trade talk is great, but like he's so expensive, and you just like if there's no market, and who is desperate for a running back, an expensive running back,
Who's broken,
who's having a comeback year from 2 years of injury.
I don't know. We'll find out if the Panthers try and get rid of CMC.
Well, that's
because he's in the same boat.
Yeah.
They're both supremely talented running backs who can't stay on the field anymore.
I'd also say that both teams are probably asking too much for them. Like I'd say, I would be shocked if the Panthers aren't asking for a first-round pick, which would be too much.
Yeah.
But I reckon that's what they're asking for.
Yeah, I mean, plus any team that is going to bring him in is going to have to pay what? 12 million.
It probably is in
A
your
lot
list
of money.
somewhere, but there's a lot in this list. But Rashard Penny
He's not on the list.
he
But
just signed for the Seahawks on a new deal for another year or two. Not masses of money, but there's a guy who was injured. He played like 10 games in his first 4 seasons or something. He had 700 yards across that time. Who finally recovered enough fitness, and for the second half of last year was one of the best running backs in the league. So you can get these players to recover their form, and he's now looking to lead the line. Whether he gets injured or not, I don't know. But you've got to be realistic. They were going to cut him or trade him for at most a 6th-round pick.
If that.
And if you're honest, that's probably where Saquon and CMC are. They've produced more in the same time, but you can go and pick up a running back in the draft rounds 3, 4, and 5 who can lead your team.
Yeah. There are other running backs still available on the market as well, like Melvin Gordon's still there. That would be a quality pickup for
He's
any
not
team.
still there, though. Playoff Lenny.
No, Playoff Lenny has signed for Tampa Bay for 3 years,
going
$21 million.
Brady wanted him back.
And what Brady wants, Brady gets.
True.
Because Brady also personally intervened to get Russell Gage to sign for Tampa. I don't know why. Like, why?
I don't know.
He's not Scotty Too Hotty or whatever his name is that was playing there.
Yeah, I still don't get it. Anyway, also in Tampa, Chris Godwin has finally signed a new contract. He's a 3-year deal worth $60 million. He's been franchise tagged twice. So, yeah, we get the whole band back together in Tampa, which is great for the rest of the NFC.
I mean, it's great. It's great for him. Great. He deserves everything he's paid. He's brilliant. It's just
Godwin or Brady?
Godwin.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I can already feel the size from Gary. They head out to a 10-2 lead.
Where's Super Thighs Mike Davis? Because you said here Damian Williams has joined the Falcons.
Damian Williams has joined the
So
Falcons.
where's Mike Davis gone?
I don't know.
The human cannonball, Mike Davis.
He didn't do very much.
No, it was terrible, but, just wonder where he's ended up.
I think he's still at the Falcons. I think they just
3 running backs they've got then.
well.
4
is
if you include Mariota.
What was it called?
He is still at the Falcons as well, yeah.
What is it? Patterson? Not Patterson. Debo Samuel called himself. He's a
wide back.
wide back. Patterson's a wide back, isn't he? Whereas Mike Davis is just a wide.
Just a cannonball. Bowling ball on a cannonball. He's not quite as fast as a cannonball. Elsewhere in the NFC South, DJ Moore has signed a new contract with the Panthers, just shy of $62 million, 3-year deal. I like DJ Moore. I think he's a very underrated wide receiver. If you ever pick him up in fantasy, he's always a good pickup. He gets yards, he gets catches. He's just, again, played with a whole dearth at quarterback, sorry.
And it could be the same again.
I think it is going to be the same again, unless...
I was just thinking...
No, there's no unless there, because even if they bring in Baker, it's still... Yeah.
That's what I mean. On an entirely unrelated note, but just because I keep seeing it come up on the screen to my right, I want whoever's in charge of measuring Kenny Pickett's hands to come and measure me, because he's grown 1/8 of an inch in like 2 weeks, and I could use that. I'm just saying that tape measure would be very handy.
This week you've got the college pro days. I think of the top 5 quarterbacks that are going to be, the consensus top 5 quarterbacks. And every day so far, I think so far we've had Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis. It's like, they're throwing bombs. They look brilliant. Anonymous NFL executive reckons that Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett are both going to be in the top 10. These aren't top 10 quarterbacks. Like, you listen to...
No, they're not.
And I listened to a podcast the other day. They're actually going through the whole of the draft this year and comparing it to where would they fit in our rankings versus last year. And I think they got... Last year, they ranked, obviously, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, but also Matt Jones as the top 3. And then came Malik Willis. And it's the same... And no one else got into the top 5.
Like 2 or 3 of them will go in the first
They
round.
absolutely will. You're
there are
right.
no first-round talent quarterbacks probably for the last few years worth compared to the others, that none of these guys are ready.
No.
You cannot plug any of these people in and win regularly this coming season. Now, that's fine, because that's how the NFL used to be. You used to draft a guy in whatever round, and you knew he was sitting for at least a year. You just did. And then for the last 10 or 15 years, it's been draft this guy, start this guy, draft this guy, start this guy.
Some of them, it's been, I mean, we've talked about the car crashes in recent years with Darnold,
Rosen,
Lawrence last year didn't look like he was, I mean, again, Urban Meyer aside, didn't look like he was the talent which everyone expected him to be. You can even go back to Winston and Mariota. I don't think they developed into the quarterbacks which they were built to be. This time of the year, it's all about PR, about all the quarterbacks that are suddenly leaping up the boards and anonymous sources who are trying to trick other teams into taking them so they can actually pick the guy that they want. It's just going to be a crapshoot.
I love it though. I can't wait for the draft.
I love the draft.
The best night of the year.
Yeah, 100%. I love this part of the part of the year. This team building part of the year is probably the most interesting part of the year for me. Right. So we've been through a lot of signings. Let's see who else is left.
We're talking to two men who like a lot of spreadsheets.
We do like spreadsheets.
We do.
Griff just shakes his head at our spreadsheets. He doesn't understand the joy of a good spreadsheet.
Come on, man. Join the cool.
I'm sorry, was that not a book from the 70s, The Joy of Spread?
It wasn't a book. Right. So free agents left. According to NFL.com, the top free agent left is Teron Armstead, who was, I think, visiting with Miami yesterday. So he could be quickly snapped up, and it would be an amazing signing for Miami as well.
Be great. Really would. Almost to the point where it doesn't seem very Miami. But he's going to be, whoever he joins is going to be I'm sure it's going to be a massive upgrade. But I mean, it's just a shame if it's the Dolphins, but because
I want to see the Dolphins do well.
I said to you the other day, I think you can say the Dolphins are comfortably the second best team in the AFC East right now, on paper.
I can't comfortably say it.
I think so. The Patriots have not done anything this year. Now, they did 2 or 3 seasons worth of free agency spending last year, so you can't blame them for being cautious this time round, but haven't done a lot.
They've not done a lot, and I said this to you on the old WhatsApp. I think them having Bill Belichick just gives them an extra oomph over Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, rookie coach and rookie kind of staff there.
And yet, weirdly, if Brian Flores was still the coach for the Dolphins, I think you'd be saying the Dolphins are the second best team.
I would be, yeah. So, yeah, but it comes down to experience. Like, there's no one got more experience at winning football games at the moment than Bill Belichick. So for me, that kind of just gives him a little nudge over the Dolphins. Only a little one, though. Other free agents, Tyrann Mathieu still out there. Not been a lot of chat for him.
Somebody will sign him, and he will still be an effective player who doesn't get injured that often.
I like the way you embrace that.
Yeah. Well, what can you do?
No,
sometimes you just completely misremember a situation. So you got to go with it. I married a loving woman once. You got to go with the situation you're in.
Cornerback Stephen Gilmore is still there, former defensive player of the year.
That is screaming re-signing with the Patriots to me.
Yeah, I think there's been rumours that he's been. No, actually, sorry. The player I saw linked with the Patriots at cornerback,
Butler. I'd take Gilmore first.
I would as well.
Malcolm Butler's done nothing good since he left the Patriots.
I also think the way he left the Patriots after that Super Bowl
was very odd.
Yeah, like he was. Did he get on the field once in that Super Bowl?
Yeah, he played one snap.
And then got hauled off.
There was obviously...
Wasn't it special teams?
Yeah. There was obviously some sort of disciplinary action. But he was brilliant in that system. And he hasn't been that good anyway. He's been at the Titans all this time.
Yeah, he's
not been that good. It'll be another one of these, plug him back into our system and he'll look really good. If you sign Butler and Gilmore, all of a sudden... then you back past the Dolphins again because your defense is that much better.
Even if it's through the draft or whatever, if you give Belichick some cornerbacks, I just trust him to turn them into absolute superstars.
J.C. Jackson was undrafted.
Yeah. Stephon Gilmore, Malcolm Butler, J.C. Jackson. It just, the machine keeps churning.
Yeah, it's like Seattle with, not Seattle, like the Steelers with the wide receivers.
Yeah.
It's very similar, New England with cornerbacks. Before you move on to other things, who's Justin Fields' backup at the Bears now?
Foles, but they're meeting with Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, that's what I just saw. Trevor Siemian. I was like,
what?
Yeah.
They're meeting with him. I don't think he's signed yet, but normally.
So where's Andy Dalton?
He's a free agent.
His career's over, right? Like, it's got to be all over for Andy Dalton, surely.
Well, I don't think he's ever going to be.
He hasn't looked that good in the last 2 years as a backup.
No, he's Andy Dalton.
But this is what I was getting at right at the beginning of the show when I was saying Mariota's come in, had 7 games either started or finished playing behind Derek Carr and looked really effective. Yeah. Andy Dalton's had 8, 9, 10 starts in the last 2 years and looked bad.
I think really effective is stretching it. I think he came.
Effective.
He looked effective. He came in on very specialised players where he was obviously going to run it.
But my point remains that Andy Dalton, who you would have said at one point was a far better quarterback just as a pure passer over Mariota, he has not taken to being a backup very well.
Absolutely not.
Well, he didn't. Dalton didn't start the season as a backup, did he? At the day after the draft, what was the tweet? Our number one, but yeah, 3-3, not much. It's all very, 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. It's just meh. He didn't do,
It's Mark Sanchez style numbers. That's what that is.
It's just, it's awkward because he was at Cincinnati for
a long time,
8 years, 9 years or something. And then it's been. He was at Dallas in a car crash year. Quite frankly,
he should have been better. Like that Dallas team with Dak, that Dallas team was scoring points that year.
Yeah,
and we thought Dalton would be the perfect backup.
Yeah, and he did nothing.
And he did nothing, and to the extent that they brought in Ben DiNucci, was it?
Well, Dalton got injured.
Yeah, there was a couple of.
I think the
Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah, that was it.
I think. Because I think basically it was the year the line just disappeared in injury as well, which obviously that's how Dak got hurt, and then I think Dalton got hurt and played hurt. Finished 4-5 with them, but it's just some guys their career as a useful NFL starter have gone. Does he dwindle into insignificance, or does he just call it a day?
I'd say calls it a day.
I'm sure hopefully he's got enough money in the bank to do that.
Sure he has. Seems like a sensible person.
Yeah.
Bobby Wagner and Jadeveon Clowney are still out there. I think we said Jadeveon Clowney signs at the last minute every year, but Bobby Wagner, someone's got to pick him up, right?
I assume someone is going to pick him up, but
yeah, there are a lot of teams that need a player like Bobby Wagner, but
he could go to the Rams.
I was just about to say, doesn't it seem a very Rams style?
Feels like a very Rams signing.
Or the Ravens.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get Zadarius Smith.
No, Zadarius Smith signed with the Vikings earlier today, so that's a good pickup for them because I think Danielle Hunter's still there, but not probably for very long. And then finally, everyone's favourite tight end, Rob Gronkowski, still out there on free agency.
He's just biding his time. He'll be back with the Bucks.
Yeah.
He won't sign for anyone else. He will play with the Bucks. Probably just on holiday. They haven't contacted him yet.
I think, wasn't he filmed in a hairdressers in Tampa? And basically, it's
no idea.
He's just being Gronk. I think he's just enjoying some free time. Basically, he's waiting for the douche light to Brady to sign it up, throw it up, and then suddenly he'll emerge.
The Brady signal.
The Brady signal. And Yeah, it'll come up and he'll come running very slowly.
What is the Brady signal?
It's a douche.
The TB12 thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, does
Up
it say
in the sky.
TB12?
Yeah,
Does it say
alright.
cheat, question mark? What does it say?
It's a deflating ball. But yeah,
You just get into bed one day, pull the covers back, and there's a deflected ball there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's it. He'll come running slowly, but unmarked, and they'll embrace, and it'll be beautiful as they kiss in the middle of. I don't know.
This is a strange fantasy world we're going into that
Yeah.
lives in John's head. Right. Anyone else
Trying to
got
make it
anything else before?
Did we
riffs?
mention Corey Coleman as signed for the Chiefs?
I think it came up.
I think it might come up.
So just to confirm, Corey Coleman is signed with the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's going to be number 2 receiver there.
Yeah.
Just
Ahead of Juju.
Ahead of Juju.
Yeah, just behind Travis Kelce. Just,
All right. Anyone else got anything else?
No, I'm spent.
If not, we'll be back next week, hopefully with a larger contingent, depending on the Flores contract negotiations with Tesco PLC.
good night.
Good night.